My opinions on forced diversity have changed over the years, so much so that I've come to dislike many of the arguments that I used to make and other people still make today. This entire topic was kind of recaptured in my mind after the whole 007, reveal and the Ariel from fucking Little Mermaid reveal. So here it is. Here is my true opinion. I think that forced diversity is not a bad thing. First, I'll be talking about why diversity in media isn't a bad thing, even if it does seem forced. For example, let's say there's a video game that takes place in the Middle East during the 2000s and so on. Let's say we put a woman soldier in the environment, not for any other reason, just to be inclusive. Now, we run into the issue of, wait, there are no issues. That's right, because we live in a time where women can fight on the front lines, not only women, but people of color as well, and people with different sexual orientations. So we have a bit more liberties with diverse characters of different skin colors and genders and sexual orientations. So no matter what, this forced diversity doesn't really do anything to the story of the game. So what am I getting at here? What's my edge? Well, some people think that any type of inclusion of a minority character in a story or reimagining of a story is wrong no matter what, and accuse it of being forced diversity, like it's a bad thing. I have problems with these people, and I find it incredibly stupid to think this way. In fact, one example of this complaining is actually done by ER. Now, don't get me wrong, I love ER and his reviews. His offensive humor and his editing style appeals to me, even though there are some things that are very suspect about his character. I still like the guy. But this little scene in the second part of the Death Note review kind of irked me in some ways. What irked me wasn't the fact that he made light of L being black. Did you get it? It was just the hyper focus on his race that made me kind of irked. If it was just a joke, then I would have no problem with it. But the fact that he goes on the entire thing for like 3 minutes really kind of irked me. Correction, he went on for about 4 minutes. 4 minutes just to point out the race change of L. Come on, bruh. It made me question why focus on something so minuscule and shouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It just seems really odd to me. This isn't something that just happens with ER, this is something that happens quite often whenever a character is reimagined as a different race or even gender. I feel that a lot of people are opposed to diversity for very stupid reasons, even though it can lead to some really interesting things being explored in more of a contextual way. Like, let's take Death Note for example. In the original movie, L is black, but let's say we make Light black instead. Now, the movie wouldn't change that much, but let's put a little bit more context into this. Now, let's say we make Light in our imaginary Death Note adaptation not only black, but born into bad circumstances. You see, in the OG Death Note, Light sees the world as corrupt and rotten, and so he uses the Death Note in order to try and tell the world that someone is judging them from afar. If you do something bad, you're fucked. In our imaginary adaptation, Light has the same views, but the way he comes to those views are completely different. I mean, come on, Light Yagami went to a good school and a good college and got a well-paying job and has a great family and everything. You're telling me that this guy really went crazy and realized the world was corrupt and rotten? In our adaptation, Light is not only black, but he has to deal with issues that many African Americans have to face. This Light is a highly intelligent black teenager who has no mother, lives with his single father and sister, and has to deal with vice and corruption daily due to it always being around him. The police probably give him a hard time as well, and some of his peers make fun of him due to his intellect. Due to all these factors, he comes to the conclusion that the world is rotten. These little details can possibly lay down some really interesting stuff that we can explore. Maybe due to the experiences with bad stuff firsthand, he's a lot more ruthless and uncaring about what happens to innocent people. Maybe he has a lower respect for law enforcement in general, which causes his rivalry with L to be more intense. My main point is that having diverse characters and maybe putting some of the experiences that the group can sometimes face can make for some really good content. That's not to say you got to do it or that it will automatically make it better, trust me it won't, but it's something to always consider. Or hell, you can just like make Light black and that's it. There wouldn't be any reason why that would be like, I don't know, fucking bad. One thing that people fail to realize is that most humans like role models. We like seeing ourselves in people that we like to perceive as better. The unfortunate problem is that some of that is perceived on race, gender, or sexual orientation, especially if those things have been demonized in the past. Thing is that if you're born around the years of 2008 and 2010, then you're kind of lucky in a way. A lot of shows nowadays are making it a priority to have diversity in their cast, and it seems like that isn't slowing down. In fact, it's actually getting better. If you were born around 1998 to 2004, then you're also kind of lucky. There were actually quite a bit of diverse characters in terms of race in this era. I can't say the same about gender, and definitely not about sexual orientation. If you were born around the mid-1980s and mid-90s, well, get fucked. Not to say there weren't any good diverse characters, but a lot of them were either just one notes or blatant stereotypes. Racial diversity was on the come up, and gender diversity was also a thing on the come up. Sexual orientation though? No, nigga. Due to this, there weren't really a lot of characters that those groups could really relate to or look up to. Having people from different demographics being represented in a good way will overall have an impact on their lives and might inspire them to actually do something that they're actually proud of. Don't believe me? Scully effect, nigga. Not only can it help out with people in general, but also with the monies as well. Let's say I open up like a movie studio and I want to make some fucking cool ass movies. I could make the movie star another part of the majority, and I mean, that's okay, you can do that, but let's say I made this person a part of the minority. Having the character be a part of the minority can lead to the minority in real life having to relate to the character and come see the fucking movie that I'm making. And when more and more people see my movie, my studio makes a fuck ton of money. And when my studio makes a fuck ton of money, I can put out more movies that feature more people from different groups other than the majority. And when I keep doing that, not only are people feeling represented, my studio is rolling in the fucking money. Some people might be like, you are just using diversity as a way to make money instead of progressing society. Okay. I mean, yeah, but who really gives a fuck about virtue when in the overall you're making a good impact on people's lives? Like, I'd rather have an amoral company pushing LGBT rights than a moral company pushing against it. Oh, like a sandwich now. There can be a problem with diversity, however. I think that just adding a diverse character and just saying, good job, we're done, is just kind of fucking it up. You gotta have a good story behind the guy or girl. And I'm not talking about those anti-sjw motherfuckers who say, there has to be some type of reason why a woman or a gay person needs to be in the media. I'm just talking about characterization in general. For me, when writing a character, I usually write the character's personality traits and then I write the character and everything else. A good example is if I make Arthur from Red Dead a woman. Would that really change anything? I mean, yeah, in terms of some things related to how people treat women back in the 1890s, but overall, she'd be the same person. Another example is if I made Lee from The Walking Dead a trans man. Will that really add or take anything? No, Lee was cool because his character was cool as hell. Another example is if I made Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop black. Would that really change anything? No, because Spike Spiegel is a definition of cool, and that doesn't change if I change his race, because that doesn't matter. But I think something that is somewhat of a problem is that some creators just put these characters in, and they're just bad. Because I think they can just like cheat and say, we have the quota, we have a diverse character. Like Ghostbusters 2016. That movie didn't suck because it had women in it. It sucked because the movie just sucked, and they thought they could sell that shit because it had women in it. Or what about when J.K. Rowling starts making characters diverse via tweets with barely any evidence showing the text? I think that baseless diversity only does harm. It makes the entire point of diversity just look really fucking cringy, and we don't want that to happen. We want diverse characters that actually feel natural and are well written so that people can enjoy them, not just fucking laugh at them. So yeah, pretty much diversity isn't a bad thing, and you should calm your fucking nerves if you find out that James Bond is getting replaced by a black woman. But you should also be aware of terrible diverse characters that do nothing but just be fucking useless, because they're not good characters. I think it's good to know that people just like it if they can know they can do the same things that other people can do, and we need good characters to represent that. So I'll see you guys later, and bye. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you like any more of my content, subscribe.